Hello and welcome to This Is Why You're Broke, a show brought to you by ARM Pensions. I am your host, Tolu Storms, and I will be your guide through the most interesting set of conversations where we examine things that affect your financial life. We will be looking at things from sex to loans to migration and everything in between. Now, we are filming the show at a most interesting time in history. COVID-19 is present, so we have implemented a number of safety precautions to make this show as safe as possible. Being socially distant, we will be bringing in guests to the show, but keeping them at a different location and making sure that we're utilizing technology to get the best out of this conversation. Without further ado, we will launch into the first topic of the day. We are going to be looking at the impact of sex on your finances and what impact your financial situation has on your sex or personal life. Let's get into this conversation with our first guest. Our first guest for the show will be Toyin Adebayo. She is a relationship counselor and someone who believes very strongly in ensuring that people are practicing in a safe, healthy, and informed way. Please make welcome to the show, Toyin. How are you doing?
Thank you, Folu. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you doing in these interesting times?
I'm doing great, thank God.
Excellent. So Toyin, this conversation, especially one that's going to be talking about personal relationships and sex, is one that a lot of Nigerians tend to shy away from. We get a little bit queasy when we think about it, but it is quite an important one. So I wonder if you could enlighten us a little bit, first of all, about your role as a relationship counselor.
Okay, as a relationship counselor, I provide counseling for single men, single women, premarital counseling, postmarital counseling. The thing is, we go to school to learn all sorts of things. You go to school to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. Nobody really trains you on how to handle your relationships. And you must agree with me that relationships actually form a core of what happens in society.
That is very true. They do form a core of what happens in society. Relationships are the bedrock from which all our other relationships
Absolutely.
spring. So let's then tackle this conversation thoroughly from all angles, as it were. We will look at the financial implications that sex has for the single woman, the single man, the man or woman in a committed relationship or marriage as well, which I would absolutely love. So first of all, for you, how important are finances in a sexual relationship in general?
Okay, it is important, and that's the truth. Whether it's a committed relationship or a not so committed relationship, finance plays a big role. Even in marriage, it plays a big role in marriage itself and then even sex. For instance, I've come to know from research that men, for instance, are they're a lot more tense when they have financial issues, and therefore it would affect their sex life. For women, it's a bit more emotional, depending on what they're going through at work or at home or what have you. So basically, finance does have a big role in your sexual relationship. And nowadays, to be honest, relationships have become so transactional. It's actually one of the dysfunctional bits of society. Relationships are so transactional. You find a man, look, when a man makes money, he feels as if that can get him as much sex as he can get. And so there's quite a direct relationship there. Therefore, that kind of man, if it's a single guy, for instance, he's going to spend a lot of his money on keeping a woman or trying to get to know a lady, all towards sex at the end of the day. They're going to have hangouts. He's going to have to take her out. Nowadays, he has to buy her weave. he has to take care. Yeah, he has to take care of her. She might need plastic surgery. They're just crazy many things that that women would need nowadays, and a man who wants sex feels that, oh, if I'm able to pay through, then I would get the sex I want. And unfortunately, for many women, that is actually correct. Yeah.
So Toyin, thank you so much. Really enlightening, and I think we it's opening up the topic quite nicely. And I'd like to dive a little bit more into some of these financial practices and how they can cultivate, since we're using the case study at the moment of a guy, and I'm going to switch to the single woman as well, because she has expenses and
Yes.
that definitely impact her sex life as well. So we'll talk about that.
Yes.
But I do want to know, so how can the single man who has not yet committed to one partner, has not yet got married or doesn't yet have that, official steady, but does want to date, and that is a reality, he does want to date different people. What would you say about introducing certain financial practices to help a potential future relationship? Is that a good practice to adopt?
Certainly, it's always a good idea. First of all, it's very practical. It's always a good idea to have boundaries in your relationships. That means expectations are cleared, pre-cleared, and that way people don't get hurt. And it's always a fantastic idea to have a budget. Because that helps you. That helps you financially. That helps you even emotionally, because you know what you're doing. You have your boundaries, and that keeps you on track.
I love that. So let's now talk about the single woman, for example. The single woman who, let's say she's pretty much traditionally minded, so she's not trying to have sex before marriage. I wonder what some of her expenses would look like, though, in trying to stay away from men, but still have a fulfilling-ish sexual life to some extent. What does that look like?
Okay, well, I have research again has found that women, I heard that in Nigeria, sex toys, especially for women, is a big market, actually.
Right.
And that would certainly have effect on a woman's financial situation. But not just that, a woman generally wants to be hot. She wants to be sexy. She wants to buy lingerie, the right wares. She wants to look good. And all of this will have financial impact on her, especially if she's not like the gentleman with the budget, with boundaries. She would certainly, spread her wings.
I love that. And do you think that women should have some kind of role in the dating? Because I know traditionally, again, here, especially in Nigeria and this part of the world, the onus tends to be on the man to pay for the relationships, to pay for the dates. But I wonder, in building healthier relationships and practices long term, do you think that the woman as well should consider also maybe creating her own budget to say, do you know what? If I'm going to say, let's step out to somewhere, maybe I should treat this person. And will that sort of sharing affect a future sex life positively or negatively? Because some people feel that the woman shouldn't step up that way.
I think it will be positively. And the reason is because, first of all, that makes the relationship less transactional. It's more like, I love you, you love me, I want to give, I'm happy to receive from you. So it's not so one-sided. It's not like someone is paying for a service, if you know what I mean. So if it's a give and take, both parties are giving into the relationship, both parties are financially invested, it's a bit healthier for any relationship, to be honest. But I would also say that traditionally, women like to be chased. Women like to be kept. Women like to be, so if you're a young man and you come and you say, maybe like on the second date, you expect her to bring out her purse, she's gonna run away. She's gonna think this guy is not ready to take care of me. Absolutely, yeah. So I think there has to be a balance. That's the truth. But for me, I think it's always healthy when a woman is also putting in something. At the end of the day, you know what a relationship should do? It should bring synergy. You should bring your value, he should bring his value, and you produce something greater than you could ever individually have created. That's my advice.
Toyin Adebayo, relationship counselor. This has been such an engaging conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. So my financial tip of the day will be very similar to the example I gave of the young man who created a budget for all his dates. I think creating a budget, especially if you're planning on having romantic relationships with more than one person, is a really effective way to set boundaries for yourself, set boundaries for your potential partner, and make sure that your pocket is not unnecessarily light just because you want to just have a little bit of fun. You understand? I hope so. And I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. It has been engaging and incredibly informative. Special thanks to our relationship counselor, Toyin Adebayo, that joined us. And a quick reminder to everyone that you really should be practicing completely safe and 100% consensual acts of intimacy. Until next time on This Is Why You're Broke, I'm Tolu Storms, signing out.